Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cabinet Vision Guy. In today's episode we're going to add a little bit more functionality to our JavaScript UCS again. And the functionality we're adding today is some error checking. And there's a very good reason why we're adding this functionality today, and that's because our current UCS has a little problem with it. So currently our UCS is written to get the unfinished end panel properties for the left and right unfinished ends. And in our UCS what we do, I'll just open it up so we can take a look. We check if that end panel is null, and in the same if statement we also check the fill aside. So here you'll see that we've got if left end doesn't equal null and the fill aside equals 1 or 3, or down here it's 2 or 3 for left and right, or sorry, left and both, and then right and both. And the problem with this is because I'm checking if this object equals null and checking with an OR statement here, the fill aside, sometimes when I don't have an end panel that does equal null, it's running through this code anyway. And what I need to do is I need to move this out into its own if statement just up here and then have this one on its own. But before I do that, I'm going to add some error handling into our UCS. So I'm going to show you what it currently does when we select the wrong end panel. So if I go set this to none, oh sorry, I'll set this to both. There we go. You'll see that we get an error message. And it's giving us an error to say that we cannot read the property of dy of null, which is our end panel. And it gives us the name of our UCS, the name of the error, and the error message itself. Now what we can do is we can include custom statements into this, and we can do it by including some error handling in our UCS. And we do that by utilizing what we call a try catch finally block. So if I just head over to a browser for a second, you'll see in here we've got an example or a couple of examples of a try catch finally. But essentially what it does is the try statement allows us to try a block of code. The catch statement then catches any error message from that code. And then the finally statement allows us to run a block of code regardless of what happens with the try catch. Now the reason we might want to include this is it also lets us throw a custom error message. So for example, in our UCS, eventually what we're going to do is have this working with a few different end panel types, not just unfinished ends. So we'll probably want to throw an error message to say that if we do have an end panel type that we don't support, that obviously we don't support it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return out of here and go back to my UCS for a second. And before I fix my code, I'm going to include my try catch statement. So right up at the top, I'm going to create myself a couple of lines. And I'm just going to write try and then open up my brackets there, and then close up down there. And I'm going to indent this section of code. So what I'm saying is to this UCS, try this block of code. And then under here, I want to put catch, and I want to catch the error object, and then open and close this. Apologies, I'm typing with one hand and it can be quite difficult. So what I'd like to do now is just include an error message, again a little bit like what we've got already in CV. So I'm going to use the UCS name. And I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to put an alert in here. There we go. And I'm going to put a space. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick the error object. And what I can do is if I want to break this out, I can give the error name just by using error name, or I can pick the specific message by obviously using error.message. I'm going to include both by just including error. Close out with this. So if we run our code now, what should happen is we should be prompted with an error message quite similar to the one we had before. So if I return, we'll see that we've got add side fillers episode 5, and then we've got the error name and then the error description, or the error message, sorry. Now what I can do in my UCS now is I'm going to go fix the code. So if I grab this, what I'm going to do is just break this out into its own if statement. And make sure I take out my and symbols and just indent this in. And I'm going to do the same for the right end as well and put this in its own if statement. I'll just copy that a bit smarter. Get rid of this one. Now my logic reads, if the left end or the right end is not null, continue, and then check the fill aside whether it's going to be left and both or right and both. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to include a custom error message if I'm using an end panel type that's not currently supported. So at the moment when I grab my end panel object, I'm just looking specifically for the left unfinished end or the right unfinished end. So anything like a finished end or an applied finished end is not going to currently be supported. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put myself an else statement. And again, I'll copy this after. And what I want to do here is I want to throw a custom error. So if I write throw, and then I can open brackets again, and then I can put in there the string that I want to use for my error message. So for this one, I'm going to put unsupported left end type. And then I'm going to copy this down here. I'll copy my logic as well. And on this one, obviously I want to use the right end type. So now currently if I use anything but an unfinished end, it should give me a custom error message to tell me. So if I close this down, perfect. So it's telling me I've got an unsupported left end type. And if I just change to be an applied end or finished end on the right hand side, I then should see the alternate error message there. Currently in our UCS, what I'm going to do is just comment those lines out, mainly because we're only supporting one end panel type, and we're going to get that error message quite a bit until we add additional end panel support in there later in the series. So hopefully you found this episode useful. Feel free to give us a like, share and subscribe. We're also on Facebook, that's facebook.com/thecabinetvisionguy, and Instagram.com as well, that's instagram.com/thecabinetvisionguy. Cheers!